is Tuesday, February 12th, 2019, and this is a quick pop-up stream that I decided to do because I promised you guys a stream today, but I kind of rescheduled it because I realized that I had scheduled my stream right in the middle of C# Fritz's stream, and the vast majority of people that watch my stream would be watching him instead of me, so I wanted to reschedule it to where I didn't have a conflict with him. But I had some interesting work come up today that I felt was kind of neat, and I wanted to share, and it's Auth0 specific. So I thought I'd just do a quick pop-up stream, talk about the problem that I was working through, and show you guys some code for how to verify JWT tokens when you don't have a library that is specific. My mic is really low. Well, let me turn that up. Is that better, Mike Jolly? Or should I get the mic closer to my face? Getting better? Okay. Let me check my mic levels over here. That's jacked up. I can turn that up a little bit. How's that for you? Does that sound pretty good? I guess I could be talking while I'm waiting for you to chat in. Okay, great. Thank you for that. I really appreciate that. So let's jump right into it. And because this is a pop-up stream, I've been wanting to do this for a while, but I want to play with the Stream Elements media request plugin. So I am going to play that, but I'm going to turn it down a little bit. Yeah, I'm not sure what is up with my mic. I need to figure that out. I haven't had a chance to look at it, but thank you, Skull Crusher, for life, and keep crushing those skulls. That's a pretty epic username. So let me jump over here and kind of show you where this whole thing started at, where I wanted to do this pop-up stream about. So I got a message from Carter Rabasa. If you don't know who he is, he's a local engineer here in Seattle. Did a lot of work for Twilio. You might have seen him speaking at conferences about using Twilio, that sort of thing. And he also runs Cascadia JS, which is a local conference we have here every few years. And what he reached out to me about is he is working on a project where he's wanting to use Auth0 for authentication, but he's not using Express, right? He wants to know, how do I verify JWT tokens without using Express? And the project that he's working on is called Architect, which you can find at arc.codes. And this is a like a serverless framework for building applications, right? It gives you a set methodology for interacting with all things AWS to create serverless apps. And he was struggling with, he wanted to use Auth0 to authenticate his users, but then he gets a token back and he doesn't know what to do with the token because he's not using Express, which makes sense. So I took some time to do some investigation to figure out how to do that, and I want to walk you guys through that stuff just to show you how to do that. So let me come over to my terminal real quick, and let's create a project to do this work. And how's the music level? Is that too loud for everybody, or is it coming through okay? let me hop over to my editor. Oh, you don't hear it. Okay, let me try bumping that up a little bit. I turned it way down because I was... locally to me, it's kind of loud and overpowering. All right, so what are we looking at? We're looking at Visual Studio Code. I'm going to open that workspace that I just created. Verify token. All right. Open up my index here. And let's see. So, if you guys aren't familiar with tokens, JWT-based tokens, let's pull up the browser again real quick, and I'll just give you an idea what they look like. All right. That is way too distracting for me right now, so I'm just going to nuke it. Thanks for experimenting with me. Okay, so if you're not familiar with JWT tokens, JWTs, also referred to as JWT, are JSON Web Tokens, which is an industry-specific standard. And the basic gist of it is you have like a huge series of characters that represent, you know, some kind of token information, as well as the hashing logarithm and a signature that verifies the data inside the token itself. So if on the left is what a JWT token looks like, you have kind of three components to it. In the red, you have a header. In the purple, you have the payload, the actual data of the JWT token itself. And then in the blue, you have the signature for that token. And if you have the keys that were used to generate the signature for the token, you can actually validate the token as it's coming through your application to ensure that it hasn't been tampered with, right? So, for example, I went to JWT.io, and it gives us just a sample token. You can see the signing logarithm that was used. And then the payload itself has some claims inside of it. It's just a JSON object, right? And then I don't have the actual signature for, or the secret for the signature on this token. So you can't see that it's verified or not, right? So let's go back to the editor. Actually, let me show you an easy way to get a test token out of the Auth0 dashboard. So on the Auth0 dashboard, you kind of have two key things that you interact with regularly. You go into your applications and you define your applications, register them with Auth0. But then your APIs as well, you can secure those APIs. So you come into APIs to create one to do that. And I have this expense API that's defined in my APIs section. And when you go in there, you know, usually when you create an API, you're kind of dumped in this expense API area, quick start. And the quick start basically tells you how to wire up Express and validate tokens, right? And all the way at the end, we have this test area. And in the test tab, it actually gives you curl scripts for being able to generate a valid access token. So if I take this token over to JWT.io and I dump that in there, you can see that there's a bunch of different information inside there, right? One other thing to note about Auth0 is if I go to, let's see, what is it? It's I am not myself.auth0.com slash dot well known jwks.json. Yeah, hey, Ancient Coder, I'm just getting started. So thanks for showing up. I'm trying to do like just a pop-up stream about a problem that I was helping a potential customer work through earlier today. And I'm kind of failing miserably, kind of spinning my wheels. But hey, let's see where it goes, all right? So this URL, this is a special URL. It's a discovery endpoint at Auth0 that's defined by the, I believe, the OAuth spec. And what this URL allows me to do is it gets me the public portion of the signing keys for my particular tenant inside Auth0. So I can use those keys to validate any token that's been generated by my tenant on Auth0. Right? Does that, you guys following me there? So to be able to validate a token that's been issued, you really need two things. You need to be able to get the JWKS endpoint, and then you need to be able to verify that token using the signing keys that are available there, right? So let's go back to the editor, and I'll show you an example of how to accomplish that, right? So to do this, there are two node modules that I'll install that'll help me do those two things. So npm I, and let's save them. I want JSON web token, and I want JWKS -RSA. While that's installing, I can start prepping stuff by requiring them. So const JWT JSON web token. Oh, I didn't misspelled that. JWKS-RSA. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to use these two modules. The JWKS client I'm going to use to fetch the values out of my endpoint for my tenant in Auth0. And then I'll use JWT or JSON Web Token to validate it using those keys. So the first thing I need to do is I need to create a client to fetch the keys for me. So I'll do that. And really all I need to do with this is just hand it the endpoint to fetch the values of the JWKS JSON. So I want to give it a URI. And my endpoint is going to be at HTTPS com well known JWKS.json. Right, so I have a client now that can fetch the values from my endpoint. So let's write a little function to get my public key to be able to validate a token. Get signing key. Once I have the key, I'll just call it back. All right. And then the last piece that I need is to, once I have the keys, I'm going to validate a given token. So let's get a token that we can use to validate. And I'm just going to go right to that page that I just showed you in the APIs. So on the Auth0 management dashboard, for my particular tenant, I can go to APIs, and I'm interested in validating tokens that come through my expense API. So I go to test. It already has a test token created for me. So back into my editor, I'm just going to drop that token right there. Save that, and to verify it, all I need to do is say JWT.verify the token. And then I need to hand it the method to get keys, to get my signing keys. And then this interface actually expects an options object, which I don't really care about. So I'm just going to hand it an empty one. Decoded that. I need to close it off. All right. Or decoded. I basically just want to dump, if I get an error back, I want to dump that to the console or standard out. And if I actually get a decoded value back, I want to dump that to the console as well. So I'm just stuffing whichever one is appropriate into this payload variable. If error is null, meaning there's no error that's come through from doing the verification, payload's going to be equal to decoded. So console payload, and then I'm just going to exit the process, right? And actually console logging a JSON object, a potentially large JSON object, might make that ugly to where we can't actually see it. So I'm going to use the util class to use the inspect method to render that JSON out to the console. So let's see, const I'm going to hand it a few options. Or not equal. Colon true. And depth. I'm just going to pass null there to dump out the entire object. Right. So I should be able to run this with just a node index, and you can see I now have a validated and decoded JWT token, and it is what we expect, right? So even though you're not using a framework maybe that Auth0 supports right out of the box, using one of our getting starteds or quick starts, you can still just hand validate your tokens using just a pair of libraries. One of them, the JWKS RSA library, is what you would use to fetch your public keys, your public signing keys, from a well-known endpoint that's defined in the Auth0 spec itself. And then using the JSON Web Token, along with those keys, you can do a verify step that tells you that, yes, the signing piece of your JWT token matches the content of your JWT token. And that is kind of all I wanted to pop in and show you guys today. I will be back tomorrow at 4 to continue on with my Broxburn series. So if you guys are into that sort of thing, please join me then at 4 o'clock in the afternoon, Pacific Standard Time, tomorrow. And since this was a pop-up thing, I'm just going to go ahead and ship you guys off over to somebody else who happens to be streaming right now. And it looks like there's a bunch of people over watching Eleface right now. So if you guys don't mind, I will send you on over there. And there she is. All right. Hey, thanks a lot, Ancient Coder. I really appreciate the feedback. Have a good one. I will see you guys tomorrow.